good this week. Hey, we got podcast number 22 coming on up.
Yeah,
And
number 22.
yep, happy to join you here once again with the fifth ward.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff to talk about, some pretty important stuff, I
I
think.
mean, we got a backlog how much stuff
Yeah, we
we
got a
got ready to
backlog
go.
because there's so much going on. Let me start with a little history here, Timmy. Just a couple
Yeah.
weeks ago, I was doing some stuff actually for our podcast, and I was on my computer, and I don't use that Facebook Messenger all that often.
Hmm.
Um, but I kept having like this little box pop up with all these different people, and I'm like, what the hell's going on here? There was like boom, 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 boom. It was just rambling on for 20 minutes, and I'm like, I don't even know what this is. So I finally clicked on it, and it brought me into this group chat. Somebody must have invited me to this group chat. And I noticed really quick there had to be 40, 50 people in it. And so I started trying to read some of the texts that were going by so fast. And I realized quickly they had a common thread. This was a bunch of mothers and grandmothers and aunts and neighbors that were really concerned about the youth violence going on in the city. And it appeared that, a lot of these people in this group chat had somebody they loved, a child that they loved, who was
Hmm.
being jumped or getting beat up, and not by one person, but by three and four. And then they're picking at them in school. Then they're showing up at your front door and calling the mother's names and the grandmother's names and threatening them. And I started reading this thing and I was like, holy Christ, this is not one or two people. This is 40, 50 people into this group.
Yeah.
So I hit up a couple of people that I knew personally and I said, geez, what's going on here? And they said, Shawn, you can't believe the violence that's going on with the youth in this city, 15, 16-year-old kids coming to houses and beating up little girls and jumping boys with 5 and 6 people. A girl will show up and start a fight, and all of a sudden there's 6 girls kicking this little girl. And somebody sent me a video and asked me not to play it, so I didn't play it. But man, it was disturbing. And it was just a young girl in an argument with another girl who showed up at her house. And next thing you know, she's getting beat up and kicked by 5 and 6 other girls. And it just made me sick. So I said to these people, what the hell's going on? Have you reached out to the city? Have you talked to the mayor? Have you called the cops? And the common thread was, we've done it all. He doesn't get back to us. The cops don't do nothing about it. We can't get the school to help us. And it really broke my heart to see this little girl getting beat up. And she was just one of many of the people
Yeah. And
um,
yeah.
that
And
these.
Sean, it's not just 15, 16-year-olds. It's right down in that middle school too.
Yeah, and some of them were in middle school, Timmy.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
stand corrected on the age, but the ones that I seen were high school kids,
Hmm.
freshmen, young
Right.
girls, not
Yeah.
not 14, 15. And
Right.
you're right, because some of the mothers said our kids are only in middle school, and these kids are beating the shit out of
It's
our
yeah.
kids, and
There's a
nobody's helping.
All right, there's a 12-year-old on the street here. He was riding his bike by there, and I was talking to him, and he was telling me every week, okay, there's fights outside the school. You got teachers getting broken hands or wrists or injured. They're even attacking the police, Sean.
Yeah, I heard those rumors, and I don't know whether they're true or not. I know
Yeah,
sometimes when people get upset, they
yeah.
start, banging out all this stuff about what's happening. I mean, I heard a teacher got hurt. I can't confirm
I
that.
don't
I'd
know
like to
either.
send something to the school and ask, but they ignore us because they don't want us to report what's going on. I don't know if
Hmm.
police have been punched and kicked
Yep.
because who's going to tell us that? We have to dig out all of our information from our top secret
Yeah, well,
uh,
we've got a guest
followers.
we've been trying to get on here, but having technical difficulties.
Yeah,
But
let me tell
hopefully
you.
they'll shed a light on it eventually.
Yeah, let me tell you a little bit about that, and it's up on the screen for the people to
Hmm.
see. So, make a long story short, they said to me, Sean, what do you suggest? I said, well, listen, why don't you go to the city council meeting and talk to the mayor? He's a former
Hmm.
state trooper, and even though I see crime in this city gathering steam, and I think after they got rid of our Safe Streets initiative that we put in, when we took over, that I think eliminated the street crime that allowed millions of dollars investment to come into the city, seen some of the worst areas become some of the safest with the cops walking the beat all the time and constant, police presence. I don't see that no more. So I was concerned, and I see things going, and people call me all the time, and the city is becoming a rough place. And I think really it's policy more than it's new people, because we've always had problems. It was not until
Mhm.
we put in some better, stronger policing policies that address these issues. But so the girls said, yeah, we've been talking about that, and we're going to go to this city council meeting. And it takes a lot of courage for people to show up at a meeting and speak, right? Public speaking is one of the most feared things. It's dying and public speaking go hand in hand with people being petrified to do that. So for them to show up, I gave them kudos. And I know it took a lot of courage. And a lot of them were afraid, Timmy, to show their face, right? Because they're afraid these kids now will come to their house and beat up their kids or beat them up or throw rocks through the windows, whatever. So my understanding is they went to the council meeting, and a couple hours later, I seen on the Cohoes chat website or Facebook site, Christy
Mhm.
Brown, a girl that I've known my whole life,
Mhm.
who posted something, and she said, "So I attended the council meeting to inquire from the mayor what he was going to do, basically, to fix the crime in our city." And I paraphrase what she said, but you get my point, right?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
are you going to do, Mayor? Because we're petrified. And whether he said it implied or implicitly, whether it was taken out of context, I don't know. But she then posts, he said to her in front of 20 people, if you don't feel safe in Cohoes, move to a different city. I mean, I
Mhm.
was flabbergasted to think a mayor of our city, a state police commander, or whatever the hell he was,
And the public safety
and the
commissioner in
public safety
Cohoes.
commissioner, and just a resident who's
Right.
who's hearing about all of this stuff would say, hey, if you don't like it, move to another city and see if you're safer. Go to Troy, go to Schenectady,
Yeah.
go to
Yeah.
Albany.
Right.
What a disgusting thing to say, right? So I thought to myself, look, I know people get upset, Timmy, right? And they take things out of context. So I'm going to reach out to some other people, right? Well,
Yep.
there's a council member who said, yes, that's what he said. There was
Mhm.
a formal council member who was at the meeting that said, yeah, it was shameful the way he
Mhm.
said it.
He lives in a
And
bubble.
and then there was some people who were there for a whole different reason that didn't even speak that said, wow, I couldn't believe, I supported this guy. He was I supported him. I thought he'd be, the best thing for public safety. And he tells somebody to move out of the city. That's
Mhm.
disgusting, Tim.
Yep. Yep.
How about
Yeah.
even if, how about even if
He ought to move.
he ought to move? He just moved here a few years ago. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you built a $750,000 house living up in the middle of the safest parts of the city.
With license plate reader cams right up the street.
Yeah, yeah, and you're a cop. Your son's a cop. It's a safe place. But
Mhm.
those people living in the gut who are seeing crime come back like a
Yep.
plague, your response is move out of the city, and
Move
and,
out of
and it's shameful. And again,
it.
I talked to a former council member, said, man, I couldn't believe he said it. Billy Smith, a council member, put it up on
Mhm.
his page and said, I'm flabbergasted. And off the record, other people in
Mhm.
politics
Yeah.
close to this guy said, yeah, I was shocked that he would say such a comment.
He's so out of touch. Yes.
Yeah, so we had a guest. Tina Moran was going to come on because she was part of this Facebook chat group,
Yeah.
and
She
she was
has
going to
more
join
info.
our show. Yeah, right. And she's had some technical difficulties, so if she can get on to the show when she comes in, I'll stop what we're doing and bring her in. But I don't know if she's going to be able to get in. If not, we'll invite her back to
A future
another
one.
show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But Timmy, how ironic is this, right? So citizens go to the mayor. He
Yeah.
basically says, if you don't like it, move out. Our city's safe. And then a
Mhm.
week later, what do we have? A week later,
Eh,
the city of Cohoes has
a
a
murder.
homicide
Yeah. Murder. Yeah.
on Main Street. And
Mhm.
Timmy, this is not a homicide like I had when I was in office, right?
Mhm.
When I was in office, we had a man and woman move to the city. They were here for a week, and inside of their house, he murders the woman.
Mhm.
I don't care if you have 1,000 cops, you can't
Yeah.
stop them things from.
Yeah,
Sadly,
it's just domestic
those
violence inside
right,
homes.
and police are about proactive and preventing stuff more than they are,
Yeah.
solving it. The the detectives go out and try to solve the crime, but police in the cars, they're not. It's not set up, and there's no way to set it up where they can be in your house if you have a fight. They're proactive in some things, but they're more reactive, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Gunshot, show up. How are they? How do you prevent them? How are they more proactive? You get out of the car and you walk the street and you flood the cops in the worst parts of the city and you push them the hell out of here and move them out of our city like I did. I don't give a shit where else you go. Other people will have to worry about it when it gets to your city. I know
You
that's
gotta
a
have a
shitty thing.
presence, yeah.
Hey, that may be a shitty thing to think, but I was in charge of Cohoes. And I'm
Mhm.
going to tell you something. When I took over, we had a dead Ransom Street full of crime and drugs and people living above the empty storefronts that were just bad actors. And Main Street and Congress Street, drugs and violence and homeless. And within 2 years, we had $50 million investment on Ransom Street, high end apartments. Those people were gone. The people on Main Street said, Shawn, we can walk the street and we feel safe for the first time in many years. You know why? We flooded these places with police. We added a second shift of detectives that gave us an extra car, extra cops, and we just flooded them until they said, this is not the place to be because we're going to go to jail here. We can't sell drugs. We can't do this. We can't do that. That's how you're proactive.
Mhm. And look at
React.
right, and the word from, residents and businesses are they're openly selling drugs right at Canal Square.
Timmy, listen, it is an open
Mm.
drug form in this city.
Yep.
There's homeless people. There's people doing drugs in the parks. There's pot being smoked everywhere. Now, I
Yeah.
can't blame the city for that. John
No.
McDonald, Neil Breslin, and those guys, they ought to revisit and rethink, the policies. Maybe you could be an adult and smoke marijuana in your house. How
Right.
about that? Instead of everywhere on the street where everybody's walking around high all day long. And the drugs in the Canal Square, we were over there. There was a needle. It wasn't, and I had a picture of it and I put it up on the podcast. So we have people doing, heroin and shooting drugs and homelessness and vagrants
Sure, and
and
right, and also, look at during the Rock the Block concerts, people were openly smoking weed in chairs right behind
yeah,
me,
and
okay?
and somebody got taken out in an ambulance, didn't
I don't know if it was, at one concert that I was at, but, I mean, at least 3 of them that we would be sitting there and you can get, a good whiff of the, marijuana, and one time we turned around and look, they're right behind us using a pair of scissors, with a joint right smack behind us. And I'm
they?
open, right, with crowds, they're doing this openly,
And
you know?
I thought parks had a law that you could. I don't remember if it was before me. I thought somebody before us did it, but no smoking in city parks, which would just make sense, right? You're in there for.
I believe that's what it was.
So
It
we
was,
have a city park.
yeah,
So maybe they can smoke pot, and I don't give a shit if you smoke all
yeah.
day long.
Neither
But
do I.
in the park, the police can say, yeah, you can't smoke here, just like you can't have your own beer here. You have to
Yeah,
buy the beer. You have to,
yeah.
and look, and I'm not saying that people who smoke pot are the
Are
look at
bad
people.
people.
Yeah, believe me, booze will do a lot worse than than smoking.
Yeah.
Most people smoke or eating a bowl
There's
of
there's just a
Cheerios.
time and place for it. That's all.
Guys drinking or fist fighting in the middle of the
Right.
street, right? But
Yeah.
but again, it just puts this bold position, that boldens the criminal, right? It boldens the people in the downtown to say, screw the cops. I'm going to smoke
Mhm.
pot. I'll blow it in their face. I'm going to drink whatever. The
Mhm.
problem is that this guy for a state trooper, and I said it all
Yeah.
along, a state trooper has no idea how to police in the city. It's different.
Mhm.
It's truly different, right?
Yeah.
Um,
I'm just shocked, Sean, as a public safety commissioner, where he he budgeted $70,000 for this position. Said we need someone independent to do this. He brings in Jim Ward for 6 months, then fades him away.
well, he brought him
Okay.
in to go after Chief
Yeah,
Heslin.
yeah, that's all he did, and then he got rid of him, and then the voters on Proposition 2 last November approved the salaried position, public safety commissioner, and he never installed one. Here we are in August.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
that's what you
he's just a clown, okay? He
get.
he's just a clown, and Al Paul was right. He is a clown. He has no clue what he's doing. There you go.
because that's how everybody feels in the city right now. Everybody
Yeah,
feels like the city's just going down
it's
the
just going
tubes.
down the toilet.
I gotta
Okay.
believe he's smarter than he appears because his policies are horrendous. The amount of money he blows in his costing taxpayers is out of this world. And crime, the one thing I thought, okay, maybe he'll be the best at crime. He
Yeah.
seems to almost be the worst. Hey Timmy, I want to show
Yeah.
you a video. I want to go into this little
Yeah.
video, but
Jump into it.
I just want everybody to remember if you want to jump in and be part of our channel, please subscribe. Go to our YouTube, hit subscribe, hit the bell. And as soon as you do that, guess what? You'll get all of the updates. You'll know everything that's going on, and you'll just help us grow and become a better podcast. So I appreciate that. And please do that today.
Also new this morning, the Cohoes Police Department confirms a deadly shooting Friday, the
Yep.
first homicide in the city in years. Shire Leggett of Albany succumbed to injuries sustained in the incident, according to police. And on Friday night around 10:38 p.m., police found him near Main Street and Schuyler Street. Officers reportedly attempted first aid, but the victim was taken to Albany Med.
So there it is, right? So we have somebody on Main Street, 15 shots fired at least. I tried to count them on the news when you've seen all of the markers.
There's a lot of casings on the road.
Where all the casings are. And people that I know whose houses got hit with bullets. At least one house of a person that's lived on that street their whole lives. And they keep saying, I can't wait to get the hell out of here. Now, at the time of this video, they still were looking for, trying to find the person who
Yeah.
shot this young man and murdered him. And I was looking at the news today because I wanted to see if there was any updates for the podcast. And it looks to me like, according to TV 13, police have arrested a man and charged him with the connection with the homicide. Now, the funny part is, and you can see the guy up on the screen, and I'm not going to put his name up there. I'll let somebody else do that
Yeah.
because I want to make sure that it's pronounced right. It's the correct name. And I've had different names come up, and I don't know if that's right, wrong, or indifference. But there's this picture. You don't need a name. All you got to do is look at the picture and see there's a murderer, a guy in our city on Main Street who shot 15 shots. But here's the funny thing about this, Timmy. So just a couple weeks ago on the same news channel, they had this guy on. And he was talking about trying to stop youth violence, gun violence.
Make this up. Yeah.
You can't make it up. So this guy is talking about how he wants to be part of the Stop Youth Violence and be a mentor and do all the right things that you have to do to help kids get the guns off the street. And the son of a bitch murders somebody a couple weeks later. So there's your mentor. This is the problem with the society today. We have these laws that were made by the state of New York. I always say the John McDonnell, the Neil Breslin, and all of the morons who think somehow crime will be reduced. Or maybe they don't really think that, Timmy. Maybe they know what it's all about, which is votes and money. But let's just pretend they're so stupid that they think this will reduce crime. Raise the age. So if you're 16 and 17, you're out there shooting people, or if you're getting in trouble, or if you're breaking into homes, you got drugs, you're burning down houses, you're just going to go to that little place called family court where nothing's going to happen because it is a court of ill repute. It is going to the abyss if you've ever been there, right? They're so overwhelmed. There's not enough judges. The judges, I think, want to jump out the window themselves. They're probably all on Prozac because the amount of pressure they're under. And these are good people. I know some of these judges. Good people put into a shitty position. So now you got to raise the age and you're pushing all these young criminals into family court when it should be, in criminal court. And the bail reform, right? Bail reform. People are getting out having done the most violent crimes. Timmy.
Right, the guy who stabbed someone in the neck up at Stewart's.
Right. Let's not pretend crime's not getting worse in Cohoes. We had the Stewart incident where the guy stabbed somebody in the neck after they let him out twice.
Yeah.
So this raise the age and this bail reform has done nothing but supersize the amount of violent crime cities are seeing all across this state. And the problem is there's not a mayor in the city who's got any balls to say, I don't care what your laws say. We're going to take our city and we're going to do everything that we can to protect our city, our residents, our people are not going to be subject to your bullshit policies. So we'll just keep arresting them and arresting them and arresting them, and we'll call you out every time they get out 5 minutes later and say, look it, call Assemblyman McDonald, call Senator Breslin,
Hmm.
call everybody else who's involved in this nonsense pushing these
Bail reform.
policies.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So the city can't change the state law, but let me tell you, you can have kahunas to fight the battle. Don't
Yeah.
get elected, Timmy. Don't get
Right.
elected. And the first act that you do is to figure out how to get reelected. Take the 4 years that you have and fight the system if it's the system that's broken.
Well,
Be the
Keeler's
advocate.
right. Keeler's solution is to have everybody buy Kevlar vest and bulletproof glass for your house.
His solution is move out of the city.
That's his attitude. Okay, or get the hell out of the city.
Yeah,
That's
and
his solution.
that is just
It's
to
insane.
me that a mayor would say that. Let me just tell you what I would say, Tim. Let me just pretend I was the
Yeah.
mayor for 1 minute. They'd be arresting me again, for Christ's sake. They'd say Shawn Morris goes against everything we do. Let's just murder this guy. Let's kill
Yeah.
him. I'm still standing. You're still standing. And the city now is far worse than it was 3 years ago when we were on the
Oh
upslide
yeah.
in magazines, rated the top three of
Yeah.
all cities in the capital region, right? Number one restaurants, number one music hall, $80 million in
All down
investment.
the toilet now.
Gone, gone.
Yeah.
But I would say this to the resident. I'm sorry that you
Hmm.
feel this way.
Hmm.
I'm sorry that our city makes you feel unsafe. And I will do everything in my power to address your concerns. So if you'll show up tomorrow to my office and bring the people with you, we'll sit down, I will listen to your problems, and we will try to come up with a plan to prevent them. And I can tell within a half hour, Timmy, if whether or not these people are, just over concerned or if they really have an issue. But if you're showing up at the meeting, you have to feel like you have a freaking issue, right? Something's
Hmm.
bothering you. These are people that don't show up to political meetings.
Yeah.
These are moms.
20
These are
people show one
grandmoms.
up and they're told to move.
Right. So instead of having sympathy for them and thinking, you know what, I need to listen to these people. The mayor of a city is not some freaking wizard, right? He listens. He takes the best ideas from the best people and he puts them into play. That builds the best freaking city. And crime is no different. You got to listen to the people who are living in the places where crime is running freaking rampant.
Hmm.
Wrexham Street is becoming a sad place. Main Street, Congress Street, White Street, sad place.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
we had our problems. Tim, I'll give you an example.
Empty storefronts everywhere.
We had kids breaking into cars, and I shouldn't say
Hmm.
breaking in because they weren't breaking in. They go along the street, pull on the handle. If you don't lock your freaking door, they open it up and they steal the stuff out of your car,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And so I said to Tommy Ross at the time, who's the head of the detectives, then the deputy chief of, or the assistant chief of the department, I said, Tom, listen, I know that we can't be everywhere. As Keeler quotes, we can't be everywhere. I said, but we can be places where all these things are happening at times that nobody will know we're there, with cops that we take from other places that have been a little safer, let's say, and move enough people in there that we'll catch them. And guess what we did? Within a week, we arrested 6 people for going into people's cars. And guess what? It disappeared. It stopped happening because crime's not every person. It's a small group. And once we started arresting them all, guess what? It
Hmm.
disappeared. So yes, we still had crime, especially these petty crimes. But we looked at a petty crime like it was a major crime because little petty crimes lead to bigger crimes that lead to bigger crimes that leads to a city full of crime all over the place. This guy's done nothing. People are
Hmm.
calling me up saying they're breaking in our cars. We don't need to see no cops. There's nobody walking the beat. I said, go to the meetings. I can't help you no more. I can bring it onto the podcast. We'll talk about it. Timmy will talk about it. Shawn will talk about it. But I can't make them show up. I mean, for Christ's sake, you're the one who's got to, you got to be the leader. And so that's kind of where we're at, Tim. I mean, I think the city's going in the wrong direction. I've received more calls than even when I receive more calls now than I did when I was the mayor about all the problems in the city. Because you know
Right.
what, we didn't have enough problems to receive this many calls.
Yeah. And, I think what's really not being discussed, how bad it really is at the middle school. That's why we were trying to get Tina on. She's been messaging me. I think Sean, she's going to try to connect with her phone again. I don't know if we'll get her, but uh, if we can't get her for this podcast here, we'll have to bring her on, and we'll do a follow up on the next one, so we can find out really what's really going on in the middle school, because I mean it's you know, once you get going with six, seven, and eighth graders, okay, it doesn't get better. Okay, and even the kids there are afraid to come out of school; they're getting beat up.
Timmy, the
Yeah,
problem is society as a
yeah,
whole.
yeah, yeah, as a whole, yeah.
So the
And
city
you
of
can't
Cohoes
defend
has to
yourself.
recognize that this shit is going to happen. It's not whether it's going to happen, it's how you address it.
And
Schools
when,
are afraid of kids.
yeah,
Cops are afraid of kids. The
yeah,
mayors are afraid of kids. Oh, if we do this, we're going to get yelled at. If we do this, I won't get reelected. If we do this, we're going to get in trouble. How about this? Stand up for the police as the mayor of the city. Don't start trying to discipline them because some kid said, "Oh, he kicked me in the ass." Kick him
yeah,
in the ass and send him home. We
yeah.
put into the to the police department a system where kids that were underage, we'd pick them up, we'd fill out the card, we'd bring it to their parents. You know what we'd say to them? You are the parent. This is what your
Mm,
son or daughter did. This is the
mm,
first. We want to bring them
yeah.
home, let you handle it because we know it's best served at this age at your house. But if it happens again and again, we will take this card and we will send it to Child Protective and we'll turn you in for not taking care of your kids. How about
Well, you know,
parents got to be responsible?
yeah,
How about
and
utilize every tool available?
you know, and the kids are brought up, taught, it seems, that they're untouchable.
Well,
They
they
could do
are.
all this stuff.
They
They're
are. Raise the
untouchable.
age. Barely
Right.
form. Don't, you can decide whether you're a boy or a girl and go to the bathroom when you want to. You can do this, you can do that. You
Yeah.
can punch the teacher. You can say screw you and walk out. We have told kids
It's
that
insane,
it's
Sean.
okay to just be wild. Ah, Timmy,
You
listen.
look,
I got believe it or not, I think Tina, can you hear me? So we got Tina. So let's pop her in, Timmy, so that we don't
sure.
take
We've
up
been
a lot
waiting
of her
on
time.
her.
Tina, how are you?
Works.
No, hey,
Yeah, it's
listen,
working.
it's working now, so let's just hop into it. Let me give you a quick rundown. First of all, we appreciate you taking time out of your busy day. I know it's been very difficult. It's not always easy to get into the podcast if you don't have all the tools needed. So you're here.
I
We
am
just
here.
we just talked about the Facebook chat group that was started because of all these young kids being roughed up. And so, why don't you just tell me a little bit about how this, chat started and what was the purpose?
All this violence ended up at my doorstep with my family, and it made me nervous, especially when you have the young ones being threatened. Um, so I needed to see if this was going on as much as I saw it, and it really was. I mean, the things that came out over this. Um, I mean, I seen video. I guess they're kids, but this isn't kid actions of assaults that um, even most adults don't do. We're afraid to. The consequences of um, it's scary. I mean, my granddaughter was threatened because she was going to school having lunch with her cousin. Um, that's just because she's having lunch with her. I mean, that's a sad situation. We can't protect ourselves and protect our kids. You don't know what to do. So I started this chat and I was just absolutely amazed and appalled by what came out in this.
Yeah, there was a lot of people on that chat.
Now you met with the school, right, Tina? You
Oh,
met with the
yes, I
school for it.
did.
How about letting us know how that came out?
Well, the school's hands are tied in a sense because the police department's hands are tied.
That's our problem, Sean.
Apparently, apparently, the age of arresting or even putting a child under detainment they raised the age. Now, I remember it being 14 to 16. You could be detained, you could get a ticket, you could have to go to court. I guess now they don't even give tickets anymore unless it's a severe felony where a jaw is broke or attempted murder type charges. But either way, it goes to family court. Um,
Oh,
and it's difficult because when you have a child 14 and you can't really file a report on them and stuff, how do you go to family court?
Yeah,
Um, so
that's the
your
problem.
hands are tied,
it's like a catch
especially,
22.
Well,
yeah, completely. But if we
here's
had an administration that held up to certain things, it wouldn't be so bad. I mean, the police can't do what they're not allowed to do.
Yeah, I've had
you're good.
officers tell me they're powerless.
Yeah, see, I think that's bullshit. I really do. I think that's a bullshit excuse for all the reasons not to want to get involved. You're not powerless. Kids can get arrested like anybody else. They just end up going to family court. That's
Hmm.
Yes,
bullshit. Let me just tell you
Yeah.
something. If a kid is 12 years old and he's punching the shit out of somebody, he can be arrested. And
Hmm.
all
I
this stuff,
agree.
all the raise the age simply said you can't take kids that were under 18 and charge them as adults, and you
Wasn't
have
there
to
a
send
time,
it to
Sean?
family court
Right,
unless it's murder or some other, real egregious
right.
acts.
Wasn't
But
there a juvenile court or something like that,
Well, then
or a
it's family
juvenile
court. There used
arrest?
to be a
Yeah,
juvenile department in the police. That's
yeah.
been
we,
long gone.
that's
Okay.
good, but we still have our juvenile detention center behind the jail that holds even 14, 15, 16, 17-year olds.
The the
Not that
the
I personally been there, but I know people who've been there that went at 15 and 16 for
Yeah.
a simple possession in a sense. And we're not even talking anything major. And
the
he did a year and a half. The cops followed him
the,
till he,
rea-
like,
let me
I
just
don't
say this.
understand.
The reality, Timmy, is this. There's things you can do. They're probably a little more difficult. They probably take a little more work, but you can do them. You can't just say, oh, we're not going to do nothing. Our city's going to get overrun with all these people, 15, 16, 17 years old. They're going to rape people, beat up people, shoot people, sell drugs, kick doors down. And we're just going to say, geez, there's nothing we can do.
Nothing we can
Bullshit.
do.
There's a lot you can do. And if you don't know how to do it, then go meet with the powers to be down in Albany and say, look, we need to come up with a plan. If we have to arrest these kids every
Got to have
single
a
day,
solution.
if,
Yep.
if we have to turn these kids into child protective
Yep.
and go after their parents, then that's what we're going to do. Because if a kid's 15 years old and he's out starting fires and or beating up kids, hey, he's still a kid. Turn him into his parents. They'll
Yep.
come knocking on your door, child protective. There's a whole bunch of things that could be done. And maybe
There's
they're
no
not.
place to hold these children, Sean. That's what I keep getting told. There's no place to hold these children if they take them.
Listen, whether there's a place to hold them or not, if you arrest somebody 25 times and then you go after their parents and child protective goes after their parents, there's places to hold them. Kids ain't, look, believe me, there's still places to hold kids. There's still things you can do. You just got to want to do it. You got to get out of the woke, we don't want to do nothing culture. And this mayor
Right.
marching with Black Lives Matter, right?
Our
What?
lives
Hmm.
matter
When
too.
what residents' lives don't matter? Whether they're black,
And
white, red,
that's the
blue,
point
green.
of all this. That's the point of all this. He doesn't think our lives matter. He sits in his little compound, and the rest of us don't matter down here because now he has extra little money in his pocket that he gets to enjoy his life. He forgets that the real world happens outside that little overlook of a corner of Cohoes he has, and it's frustrating because even when he does show up at City Hall, his blinds are closed and he has no clue what's going on.
Tina,
It's like,
let me ask you another question. So, when there was when the messenger link was going around with all the people chatting about the problems, one of the solutions that I sent out was go to the city council meeting. And I wasn't alone because there was other people, including yourself, that said we need to go to the city council meeting and address our mayor. Let's make sure the mayor understands what the problem is before we start blaming him for no solutions, right? So tell
We
me a little
gave
bit
him,
about what happened. Were you at that meeting?
I was,
So tell us a little bit about that.
we asked him if he was aware of the problem. Cohoes don't have a problem. We gave him some solutions and he shook his head and pretty much like, we don't need to do that because we don't have a problem. Where do we see a problem? So we started telling him where the problem was, how it was a problem. In the end, I don't know if maybe he didn't like what the problem was or didn't like being called out there was a problem. Because he told us if we don't feel safe and our children, we don't feel our children are safe, we can move out.
I mean,
You're saying that
how
some
did
of you should.
how did you feel when
Uh,
he said that? What did you feel? What went through your mind when he said that to you?
my first instinct was a punch in the gut. I won't lie. That was a punch in the gut. Um, how could you say that? As many of us fought to be here to fight to keep our streets clean. I mean, I myself have put a lot of time and effort into our city. Um, how could he just say that? This is our home. And then I got really angry because that just shows the arrogance and how he really doesn't care. He just wants everything to pretend to be smooth. We have no issues here at Cohoes. These watercolors are running, and he he needs to realize we're going to keep our kids safe, and we don't want to have to do it ourselves because it's not good. We shouldn't have to. We
Oh,
shouldn't
that's
have to
what we
worry
pay
about rocks
taxes
being
for
thrown our
anyway.
window.
We
You
pay
know,
taxes
it's
for this, both to the school and to the city.
yes, and the school is more than willing to do stuff, but it's hard when the city isn't giving back. I
See,
mean,
let
they
me.
got CPS workers that go to the school that are willing to work with people, and they're saying the best we can do on this end is get a pins. Well, you can't get a pins unless you get reports and prove behavior, and you need the police department for that. But when they're just showing up, they don't even they can find marijuana on them, and they don't even give them tickets no more.
Yeah,
They take it and leave.
and that's sad because these are kids. If they
They're
have
kids.
cigarettes, if they have marijuana, those are
They
reasons
tend.
to take the stuff from the kids, bring them to their parents, file a petition against. Here's the problem. They don't want to do anything because it's a lot of work to do those things. It's just easier to show up and go, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do. I promise you this, if it was happening to them, they would find something to do. They would find a
Thank
reason
you.
to fix it. I mean, I know that for a fact. I've been through it. You know that I've been there.
Do you get
Mhm.
kickbacks for your city being safe?
Kickbacks. The only
Yeah, I mean,
kickback,
I know
the
that
only
sounds
kickback
crazy,
that
but
you
as
get.
mayor, does he get credit or something because his city is safe where he doesn't have to put these extra patrols out and like all this stuff? Is there a reason why
Well,
he
I wouldn't
won't
use.
admit we
Yeah,
have
the
a
word.
problem?
I think the word kickback would be the inappropriate word.
Yeah.
But do they get any kind of like? I'll use this
Incentive.
word: incentives,
Yeah,
kudos. Yeah, I mean, listen, when you're trying to build a city, the first two questions that are asked of me every single time I asked investors to come in is, how safe is the city and how good are the schools? And if the schools ain't good and the city's not safe, they ain't investing their money. And we're going to have a whole show about that in the coming weeks, probably the coming days. But the schools can't be good if the kids in them are beating the shit out of everybody. Are you going to move to Cohoes and put your kid in the school? So the school has an obligation to meet with the city and say, look, at collectively, we have to find an answer here. But the
well, they
city,
want to add more apartments, so they need to figure out something to keep us safe and figure out the school situation because now they're adding more apartments.
yeah, well,
We need to do something.
the city needs to step up and the school district has to work alongside with them. They need to come up with a plan. Anybody that tells you there's nothing that they can do are full of shit. They don't want to do
Well,
nothing. They're lazy. This guy would have to put in 16 hours a day like I did to make things get better. You can't just show up at 9 and go home at 10 and mow your lawn. You
Yeah.
gotta
He's
you
not
gotta
into it.
give your life and soul to the community. And until that happens, I think sadly we're going to continue to see things spin out of control. Tina, listen, I appreciate you coming on the show. I know Timmy appreciates you coming on the show. And, if you want to come back, I know that we talked about bringing some of the other people who have concerns as well.
Yeah, I think we should do that. Maybe get a few, and by
If you
then
got
I'll have
you got
my
family and
other.
friends, let them know.
Yeah. I
Oh yeah,
mean,
my niece wants to do this and a few other people, so I'm gonna make sure everything's up and running by tomorrow
They
night so
right.
we can
They
do
can
this.
get a hold of Shawn or send me messages like that. What we'll do is what we did with you, Tina. We'll do a test connection, and we'll see if we can get them on.
yeah.
Then we
Yeah.
can bring them
That
into
works.
the podcast. Okay.
All right.
That works.
So Tina, thanks for going through the
Yep.
all of the stuff you had to do just to get up on the camera that
Yeah.
you have and your
No,
phone. And
that's all right. It
but
just seems like everything's against me today. Those bottle caps are falling and they won't
that's all right.
stop.
Don't worry about that. It was nice for you to come on.
Hey,
This is
we right.
it's
We went through all
beautiful.
those troubles too, Shawn.
Yeah, yeah,
If you
yeah.
would,
It's beautiful to
yeah,
have a residents come on and share their
yeah,
concerns because it's
appreciate it.
not just coming from me and Timmy. But
Yeah.
listen, be safe. Keep up the good fight. Don't quit. It's your home. It's your community. It's your city.
I'm
Yep.
not giving up my home.
And
I'm not
and
giving up my
You
home.
know.
I'll fight for it.
yeah, and anything that we can
Thanks,
do,
Tina.
we'll do. But thanks for coming on, Tina. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a blessed one, guys.
So Timmy,
Alrighty.
there you go. I mean, that's right from the horse's mouth, right? I mean, these are the residents of our city who are
Yep.
facing.
And we need more people to come on board and say, hey, we got to show people that this problem does exist. It's not something that we're just making on up. This is affects people right down there in that area of the city.
Well,
It
listen,
affects the
Tim.
whole city.
I think that we got a lot of work to do in the city. I'm disappointed that
Yep.
a state trooper who runs the city has got more crime going on and letting it go on than any
Yeah.
other mayor I know
And
of.
he doesn't care. Move.
And he doesn't care. You can move if you're not feeling safe. But hey,
You
until
know.
next week, Tim. I appreciate seeing you, and
Yep.
I look forward to having some more conversation. I know there's more people that want to come on
Yep.
and talk about their kids and the safety. I think the more people that come on, we just expose the reality, and maybe the mayor will step up and help them with their kids and their safety, like he did with cutting the grass
Yeah.
and everything else that we had to shame him into. But until then, Shawn Morris and my
And
good
Tim
friend
with the good
Timmy
Lord.
on the
Yep.
Cohoes, the good, bad, and ugly. Until next week, Timmy, I'll see you later.
Take care. Good day.